And here we go, another contentious night for Tiffany Henyard at the annual Thornton Township meeting. Henyard is township supervisor, but tonight she was challenged by board members and the public. She was booed loudly at several points.
According to a lawyer who asked to remain anonymous due to potential backlash, Mayor Tiffany Henyard has allegedly manipulated court proceedings to maintain her position and influence within the local government. The lawyer claims that Henyard used deceptive leadership tactics and influence to avoid accountability and further her personal interests, which some residents have called for an immediate investigation into Henyard's courtroom behavior after this revelation sparked a contentious public discussion and raised serious concerns about potential abuse of power. The lawyer claims that he has gone to great lengths to influence court decisions in her favor. Reports state that his strategies included pressuring key witnesses to get favorable rulings, exploiting loopholes in the law, and manipulating the system to delay court proceedings. Henyard may have used her position to intimidate or discredit witnesses, according to the attorney, who says that these actions are an effort to evade addressing the accusations against her, which include financial mismanagement, abuse of power, and corruption in her administration. She has found methods to use the legal system to shield herself from repercussions, and it's a well-thought-out strategy. These accusations add to the growing number of ethical and legal problems the Henyard's administration has faced. Another significant charge is that Henyard, by providing the court with questionable financial records, misrepresented the state of Dalton's municipal finances. According to reports, the lawyer believes that these documents were purposefully altered to conceal questionable transactions, which might have involved illegal spending or stolen funds. Henyard made these documents available in order to conceal irregularities that might have otherwise led to more in-depth investigations, thereby reducing criticism of her administration's spending. Henyard's financial processes had already been made transparent. Many locals and trustees have expressed concern, especially in view of the delays in local infrastructure projects and the cuts to community services. This was part of a larger plan to hide Dune's financial situation and avoid accountability for any potential poor management, the lawyer said. According to the lawyer, Henyard used coercion to sway witnesses and officials involved in her cases are potentially the most unsettling. Several witnesses who initially came forward with accusations against Henyard were later pressured to withdraw their statements or testify against Henyard, the lawyer revealed. The lawyer further claimed that some witnesses were threatened with termination or legal action if they refused to cooperate with Henyard's team, in addition to influencing witnesses and altering financial documents if confirmed. The lawyer claims that Henyard's influence extended to Dalton's local government, where she allegedly used her position to silence officials. This would be a flagrant obstruction of justice and a grave violation of the ethical standards expected of public servants. Additionally, Henyard is accused of using the legal system to delay her court cases. Claims that Henyard's legal team regularly filed petitions to postpone hearings or create procedural barriers in order to buy time. According to reports, this tactic allowed Henyard to remain in office longer than she otherwise might have because investigations into her actions were continuously delayed, allowing her to keep her job and continue with her operations of the administration without being concerned about potential legal consequences. Dalton residents and municipal authorities are demanding answers in response to these new allegations, which have sparked backlash. Leaders in the community were calling for an investigation, while critics claimed that this was a purposeful strategy used to drag out the legal proceedings in order to avoid being found guilty. In the meantime, it seems that trustee Stanley Brown has finally conducted an independent investigation into the lawyer's claims that Henyard's reported behavior is a breach of trust and ethics that Dalton's residents should not tolerate. Many residents have taken to social media to voice their frustration, voicing their concerns about a leader who seems to put personal interests ahead of the community's well-being. Turned against Henyard for good this time. At first, he appeared to be rock solid, always supporting Henyard in board meetings and voting for her on everything. However, he was later spotted with the other trustees at the Dalton Park District territory, where Henyard rarely, if ever, visits. Brown then attended the sham meeting which Henyard organized. Finally, Henyard filed a lawsuit against the Doughton trustees, putting Brown's name on it, and there were rumors that he didn't even give his consent. We'll get into all of that soon, but first, let's examine Henyard's rent issues and the entire eviction process. I got the news a few weeks ago that Doane Mayor Tiffany Henyard was going to be evicted. Since she was dealing with other problems, I honestly thought that she would pay the rent and move on. It didn't seem complicated. However, the rent dispute seemed like the least of her worries, but now we are witnessing it grow into a bigger problem. Imagine this. A couple who earn over $250,000 annually are about to be evicted, and it's not just any couple. She is already dealing with a lot of issues, including FBI investigations into suspected misuse of federal funds and accusations of giving contracts to campaign donors. The landlord is now begging everyone he can to give him my money. Evictions happen frequently, but this one stands out because it involves a mayor and her boyfriend. These are high earners with six-figure salaries that should more than cover their living expenses. So it's clear now that Hannah had an issue with this person at first, Miss. When she rented her place to Henyard and her boyfriend, Hall, the landlord thought she had found the ideal tenants. They seemed like friendly people, even involved in campaign work. However, despite their friendly beginning, Hannah called up this woman and effectively pressured her to guarantee the rental. At that point, she was already a mayor making a good living, so who would have expected any problems? The issue arose when the landlord needed to increase the rent by $200 to cover increased property taxes, to which Kamo Woods, the mayor's boyfriend, replied, "Sorry, I can't afford it." It's difficult to defend that position when he's earning more than most people will ever see in their lifetime. This isn't new in New York City, where a $200 rent increase can be significant because some of the highest rents in the country are in this city, which is, in my opinion, where housing costs are relatively low. The price they pay is actually quite reasonable for that type of house. I pay more than that myself, but instead of simply refusing to pay the higher rent, they stopped paying completely. In August, September, and October, the same thing happened. Now, the landlord has no choice but to begin the eviction process, which isn't exactly going as smoothly as it could because Henyard is the mayor. It's difficult to leave your house, and now imagine attempting to evict the mayor. The sheriff's office is unable to serve the eviction papers because Henyard is avoiding them like it's an Olympic event. When a public official is unable to pay their bills, it speaks volumes about their leadership. Why would anyone trust them to handle public funds again, especially when the FBI is currently investigating them for allegedly using them for their own benefit? A new standard was set when Henyard and her boyfriend allegedly changed the locks on the house and garage, completely preventing the landlord from entering. This case is now receiving even more public attention.
Village board meeting this evening. That meeting was being held at the Park District building since Village Hall cannot legally accommodate the crowds it attempted.
According to a report from Adair County Watchdogs, I believe that authorities will eventually reach a conclusion that will likely force Henyard to leave the region at this time because she has nothing else to do and the landlord wants her to leave because she owes rent. And now that it's time to calm down and move on, let's look at the matter from Stanley Brown's perspective. He seems to be saying, "I'm out of this, so let's break it down quickly." The uproar surrounding Mayor Tiffany Henyard has escalated to a level never seen before. Heights, and it has now embroiled her attorney Max Solomon, who may face sanctions under Rule 137. The complaint was brought against the Doughton trustees, but the most odd aspect is that Andrew Menholm and Stanley Brown, two trustees, are listed as plaintiffs. According to Brown, he was not consulted in the action and did not give his name authorization for its use. He also claimed that trustee Andrew Holmes was similarly uninformed and declined to serve as a plaintiff, so why would? You read that correctly. Henyard's solicitors filed this lawsuit claiming to have represented Brown and Holmes, although neither party ever consented with their names being added in a case they never agreed to join. In fact, Stanley Brown has publicly rejected this. The trustees have responded to this serious infraction by filing a move for sanctions against Henyard and her attorney for gross deception. Let's examine Brown's letter to Mr. McGrath, which is a powerhouse. In this letter, I explicitly declare that I do. Tiffany Henyard filed a lawsuit against the adult and trustees, and I never agreed to be a plaintiff in it. I've learned that my name might have been added to this case without my express agreement or approval. He also said, I want to expressly state that I oppose this action and do not want to be engaged in any related legal processes. Kindly take prompt action to get my name removed from this case and provide written confirmation that I am no longer a party to this transaction. Legal action, please contact me if I need more information or clarification. I appreciate your quick attention to this situation. This request wasn't made casually, as Brown often affirms, and he wants to make it obvious that he never agreed to be involved in her lawsuit. He stated that he has no interest in being involved, that he wants his name removed immediately, and that he has no patience for this chaos. It appears that Henyard is managing this lawsuit alone, as she is already dealing with the fallout from her own concerns, such as FBI investigations on allegations of embezzlement and corruption, swiftly losing ground and extinguishing fires on all sides to exacerbate the situation. It is said that false legal representation is to blame for this disaster. Let's resolve this. Down, her attorney Solomon is not exactly an example of integrity. He had his legal license revoked a few weeks ago for embezzling a client's money, and now he is suing on their behalf even though the plaintiffs didn't agree. Her lawyer's bad decisions have led to penalties for acting as a representative of individuals who never asked for it in the first place, even though Stanley Brown is doing everything he can to distance himself, while this Calamity Holmes, however, has declined to comment and is certain to do so again this. The whole thing is a blatant violation of Rule 137, which is meant to ensure that lawsuits are based on facts rather than malicious attempts to cause disruption by using someone else's name without that person's agreement. It's a prime example of frivolous behavior, and it is clear that she is struggling greatly. She is dealing with a number of issues, such as being absent from board meetings, being accused of corruption, and having ongoing disputes with her trustees, notably the Dolton trustees. She has been upset over township trustees and several other issues, and now she has taken a strange step. I wonder if she decided this on her own or if her lawyers advised her. What kind of lawyer would allow their client to air their frustrations publicly on Facebook? Would they advise it for an hour and a half? CH has made a lot of odd choices, and this one feels especially desperate. She will likely act in any way imaginable to bring down as many people as she can, vehemently defending her choices in leadership. Despite being accused of corruption and incompetence, she also portrays herself as the victim of unjust smear efforts, claiming repeatedly that the board and others are conspiring to undermine her without offering any proof. This seems more like political scheming, plotting as opposed to a conspiracy, even while she is fiercely protective of her record and never stops. Running for office puts you in the spotlight, and if you're not performing well, people will undoubtedly speak about it, and those conversations will acquire traction. Highlighting her achievements.
Henyard spent an hour and a half on Facebook Live after the meeting, making a series of claims.
It's a power grab, that's it. Power and money grab.
A lawyer may let you chat on Facebook for over an hour, but it's not in their best interest. She accuses Chis Gonzalez of lying and charges YouTubers and others with sabotaging the township's efforts, despite her claims to be all about love and harmony. Except for her, everyone is mistaken. She begins with a speech that inspires unity, courage, and endurance, but it soon turns into a chaotic, unstructured TI raid. Her message would have been effectively communicated in a brief 10-minute address at the township. A large portion of it could have been crammed into that. She tried to rally support from her constituents while working hard to preserve her position and reputation, but for a brief while, the tone was erratic. She frames herself as fighting a spiritual war in politics, positioning herself as the defender against corruption and meddling. The fact that she brings it up is almost comical. Given the irony of her statements, it appears that she is preparing to reveal the truth at this point. She likely thinks that everyone close to her has already turned against her and spoken to the heads of the Fed. Suddenly, she was combative and aggressive one minute, then pleading for belief and then advocating for unity. There was no consistency and steady. She seems to believe that everything has fallen apart at this point and that she is losing the people who have stuck by her, such as Keith Price. She has been discussing how her board has been compromised by outside forces, suggesting that outside players have an influence, but now she is prepared to come. After babbling for an hour and a half without providing any evidence to back up her claims,